We're at Moor Farm, Branston. We're sat in the stone barn. It's a barn that dates hundreds of years old. Outside there was a crew yard where we kept the cows and calves and then the yearlings. Inside here there's the hay ricks, which that's a Lincolnshire word, I think. That's where they would put the hay in. In the next part of the stone barn was what they called the creamery, and that's where they took the milk and let it cool and separate out, take the cream off the milk, and then it could be taken away and sold in the towns and the villages locally.
So it was at the end of like a long country lane. It's quite a nice area, all fields and stuff for cows and that. It was a big industrial place. Really kind of stuck out down there. It was a very kind of oppressive place to be. There were rooms, there was the cow sheds where they brought them in, and then there was the loading bays where they took them out. And then in between there's a big hall, lots of stainless steel everywhere, pneumatic stands that went up and down, big saws and all kinds of things.
First thing in the morning, I can remember my dad belting through into my bedroom because it looked out onto the crew yard, and he would throw my bedroom curtains open, and the first thing, he wouldn't even speak to me, but his first idea was to look out and have a look and see whether the beasts were all right in the crew yard. And if they were all stood up and they were all happy, you know what I mean, and then the next thing, he'd be downstairs shouting, "Come on, it's time we were getting on." So we'd end up your boots and overalls on in a hurry, and the first thing you did, you didn't have a cup of tea or a drink or anything, you came straight out to check on the cows, get them fed, and check them all around, make sure that they were all right. No, there was none of them ailing anything.
My main job was doing the bins outside. So you'd spray a load of chemical on them all, and then wash the rest of the stuff off. Any bits or anything you'd empty on the floor, and then chuck them in a big plastic drum. I also had to do another room with a load of machines in it, get them all clean. It was a couple of there was a big oven, big gas oven, and like a rotating wheel that would strip the excess off the final product.
All the stock that you have on the farm, you have an attachment to. You see it born, and you watch it grow. Some of them, you're glad to see the back on them, because it's especially if the one that's trod on your foot will give you a kick in the thigh or something like that when you've been going round trying to sort them out. But yeah, you do. There's nothing more sad than seeing an empty field or a crew yard that's quiet and without any life in it. And yeah, it's a strange feeling. It's not one that you can prescribe to well or talk about that much, but it's something that you've spent that long of time with, and you've sort of nurtured and hoped for the best, and then it's all finishes.
I was there to do a job, and it helped that I wasn't there. during the main shift when they were doing the killing. But you still went and you saw what had happened, and it was my job to clean it all up, so you had to be aware of all of the places that all the stuff got in, and all of the different types of mess that there was there that had to be cleaned. I didn't like working there. It was difficult to see the animals being loaded into the sheds, and knowing that was, they were going to be the mess on the floor the next day or a couple of days' time.
It was one of the first cows that your granddad had, and it was really quite an elderly old thing, and she was a good-hearted old soul, but as she got older and older she went blind, and I can remember your granddad having to let all the beasts out. In springtime, when the cows and calves all went out, it was all hell let loose. They'd go charging straight out from the crew yard, across the yard and into the field at the side of the house. And this poor old thing, she didn't know quite which way she was going. And your granddad used to have to go and take her and lead her. And then we'd feed them a bit of barley and hay and odds and bits and pieces. And she wouldn't know where the feed trough was, so we'd have to go across and lead her every now and again to the feed trough. And she'd fill her boots and she was happy, and she'd have a bit of a mantle about round the field. But every time, so as she got her fair share, he would take her over and make sure she was there.
It was interesting that I spoke to one of the guys who did the main shift, and he did what is considered the killing, but he said that he didn't kill the cows. He said that the guy who stunned them, that they were unconscious and they were out, and that was the guy who killed them. And I thought it was interesting that he said that he'd never killed a cow. The guy who stunned him would say that he'd never killed a cow. So everybody walked away saying that nobody ever killed a cow in that place. Yet, at like 250, 300 cows a day would be killed there, and somebody did it. But nobody took responsibility for it.
Nobody has got a thought of where their food, what it is, where it's come from, how it's got to their plate. And I think this is something that needs teaching, and folks to realise that what you're putting on your plate on Sunday has had a decent life. And like poor old George has had to do, that is a nasty bit on it. I've had the pleasant bit with watching them grow and go up, you know what I mean? I don't know. It does. It's a very difficult question. It's one of them things where you have to sort of search your heart a bit, you know what I mean, and try and be truthful over it. I don't know. I think a lot of it we need to think what we're doing. We need to keep an eye on what is actually happening, so as stuff isn't being, I don't know what the proper word is for it, taken for granted, abused, if you like. Everything has to have a bit of dignity about it.